Good evening, welcome. My name is Bill Massey. I'm the CT coordinator. I'm a college and career counselor here at the high school. Thank you for joining us at our FAFSA Scholarship Finding Funds Night. We have students from Central, Falls City, Paradale, mostly Dallas, our community school, and Morrison here tonight. So we've got a packed house. We've got 4 speakers. We've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so we'll kind of get through this. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. Students, please, whenever you fill out anything regarding or relating to college, financial aid, do not use your school email. Okay, you'll lose access to that as soon as you graduate. So, second thing is we are recording this. It'll be on our YouTube channel. I'll share it with all the senior parents. I'll share it with outlying districts as well. This is our College and Career Center. It's our library. But if you're ever interested in coming and checking out, we have military stuff here in the middle. We have all college stuff on those 4 pillars alphabetically, and in the back right corner is our trades and apprenticeship stuff. So if you're looking to go in the trades, apprenticeships, that's all in the back right-hand corner. So I know I've met with about 30 seniors and they didn't even know it was here. And so definitely want to get that word out. And then at the very end of this presentation, we'll have a raffle. We have 8 to 10 items that we'll raffle off, and we'll do a little Q&A with our speakers as well. So today we've got Rochelle from HEC, that's Higher Education Coordinating Commission, the state of Oregon. She's going to be talking a lot about Oregon Promise and basically finding funds. Katie's here from Willamette University, so she'll talk about applying to private schools and the different type of scholarships that they have, institutional, local, all that kind of stuff. Ricardo from Western Oregon University, and then Jorge from Chemecca. So kind of our 3 local schools, community college, private, and 4-year institution. And then that's kind of the schedule of how we're going to do things. So again, we will have a Q&A at the very end, along with the raffle. So again, thank you for joining tonight. I'd like to see a packed house, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of this. So Rochelle, you are up.
Excellent. I have been doing this all fall at different schools throughout the Mid-Willamette Valley, and I can tell you right now that this is the largest presentation that I've given this fall. So thank you for all coming. I really hoped that tonight I can give you some information to help demystify the process of financial aid and college applications. It is one of those things that I was where you are as parents just a few years ago. My daughter graduated in 2020 in the pandemic, and my son graduated a couple years later. And so both are in college right now, and I know that this can be a little overwhelming. And so I hope that I'm able to give you the information that you need to get started. Students, this is a really exciting time, and I'm really excited for you. You've got a lot going on, and I know some of the information that I'm going to share tonight, you're going to be like, when and how do I find time to get all of this stuff in? Because there's a lot of steps to this process. And just know, one step at a time. Have people around you who are supportive of your goals. And parents, this is something that you can do to help encourage your student to kind of do those next steps. Also connecting with your college and career coordinator at the high school that you are attending is really important. They are the ones who will know all of the local scholarships, all of the information, and if you get stuck, they're your first go-to person to help you through the process. So that's really important. Tonight, as I get started, we're going to be talking about the financial aid terms, FAFSA and ORSA, which are financial aid applications, and then talking about grant programs and scholarship applications. So this is kind of a large general overview of the process. As we're getting started, I wanted to first start as a little helpful tips for seniors. All right, so seniors, there are some things that can really help you be successful in this process. And if you're going to hear a lot of information tonight, but if you remember these 3 things, this will help you in your entire process as you go through this process. So the first thing is to stay organized. It is important that you find a place to store your usernames and passwords that you'll create. Every application you do, every scholarship, if it's online, and then you also have, other usernames and passwords that you normally use, right? Your Netflix account, your Google account, all of those different things. You're going to start accumulating a lot of usernames and passwords. A lot of students think, oh, I'm just going to use the same username, the same password for everything, or I'll save it on my computer. And I can promise you that that doesn't work all the time. Computers can get broken or lost. There's so many different things that you actually need to have usernames and passwords at your, right at your fingertips. And so find a place. I encourage students to use a password safe. Download an application, or oftentimes on your phones, there's different apps that you can use to store your usernames and passwords. That way you only have to manage one username and password you get in, and then all of your other usernames and passwords are available to you at your fingertips wherever you go. And I'll tell you, you're going to be at school working on a scholarship application or a college application, and you're going to need some information, and you can pull that right up to get into whatever account that you need to, if you have it available. So, finding a place for usernames and passwords. I personally and professionally use, and both of my kids use, KeyPass. That's the app we downloaded, but there's a lot of different apps out there. The other thing to note is deadlines. Deadlines mean deadlines. It's a stop point. A lot of students are used to, in school, having soft deadlines. You have a teacher who assigns an assignment, but if you have an athletic event or you have something that comes up, maybe you get sick, you have the opportunity to turn it in later. But what I want to suggest is, from this point on, as young adults, you need to get to the point where you understand that when a deadline is stated there, it's due at this time, typically there aren't a lot of opportunities or avenues to extend that deadline. And so it's really important to identify your college priority deadlines, the application deadlines, scholarship deadlines. All of those things are really important to note, and then put it on your calendar. A lot of students, like to use planners, physical planners, or calendars that you can look at, and I think that's a great idea. But often a digital calendar is going to be most helpful because you can set reminders. And I'm telling you, that has saved my bacon, and my kids love that option for calendars because it reminds you when those dates are coming due if you set a notification a week out or 2 weeks out. So make sure when you're identifying those deadlines that you come across with scholarships and such, that you put it on a calendar, okay? And like I said, there's lots of ways to do that, but that is important. Next, use your full legal name on all of your applications. And what I mean by full legal name is the name, if you have a Social Security card, that is on your Social Security card. Oftentimes, students might have a different name on their birth certificate, or you use a different name at school. But it's really important to use the name that you have on your Social Security card, because that's what's going to be matched through the FAFSA application. And so when you're starting to create an account for the FAFSA, you want to definitely make sure that you physically look at your Social Security card and note the name, including if you have two last names, you need to use both last names. If there's a hyphen in between your two last names, you need to use the hyphen. It needs to match exactly. And what the benefit is of doing that on all of the applications you do from this point on, is that they'll all match each other. So when you apply to Willamette University or Western Oregon University and you're applying for scholarships through private organizations that then, if you win, are sending that money to the college, it's going to have your name matched at all of those points. including your financial aid that you potentially will get from the state or federal government. So everything needs to match, and so it's really important to use your full legal name on all applications. The third thing that's really important is your email address. We already heard your student account's going away. As of graduation, they'll shut off your student account and you can't get access to it anymore. So what I encourage students to do is to create a professional email address. Does anybody have any idea of what I mean by a professional email address? A parent, what do you think I mean by a professional email address?
First name and last name.
First name and last name. Any other? So basically, you don't want to be rainbow unicorn at, Gmail, or something that might be too silly or inappropriate. In a lot of cases, this is your first introduction of yourself to an office of admissions or a scholarship committee, and it can say something about you. I had a situation where I was talking to a scholarship committee person, and they were talking about different things that they were dealing with. They were trying to debate between two students winning an award for one of their scholarships. And it was a $1,000 scholarship. They were having a hard time deciding, but all of the things were almost equal. Like their GPAs were similar, their essay was similar, everything was similar about these two students, and they couldn't decide. And it came down to the email address. One used a professional email address, the other student used Hotmail, M-A-L-E, @hotmail.com. So, you don't want an email like that. The other thing that I want to tell you is another story. I had a student who came into my office. I used to work at a high school doing the same work like here as a college and career advisor. And I had a student come in. It was spring term. Students were getting notifications about their acceptances and scholarships. I had a student come running into my office and said, he was out of breath, and he goes, "Mrs. Ferris, how do I get my scholarship back?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And what happened was, in fall, he applied for a scholarship, and he was reached out to multiple times. It was a $1,000 scholarship. He was reached out to multiple times. He didn't check his email address. And so he never could respond to accept the scholarship, and finally they gave it to somebody else. And I'm like, "Well, that's weird. Didn't they call you?" And he goes, "Well, I guess they tried to. In the email it said they tried to." And I'm like, "But you didn't answer your phone?" And he goes, "Well, I didn't recognize the number." So I guess that's another suggestion that I would have for you. This point forward, I would encourage you to put a voicemail or activate your voicemail on your phone and have a message and check it regularly, like you check your email address, because you don't want to miss something. And I will tell you, as you're a young adult moving forward into the real world, people like me, my age, my generation, this is how we communicate with you. All right? And these are the people who are going to be giving you jobs. These are the people that are going to be giving you scholarships and helping you, get into school. I know colleges oftentimes will use other ways to contact you. They're even getting into texting sometimes and things like that. But in general, it's important to make sure that you have an email address, that you check it regularly, and also you set up a voicemail account and make sure you're checking those regularly. So tonight, I am going to be talking with you about finding funds for financial aid. We'll get into the meat of what I have to share tonight. But these are a few different ways to pay for college. I'm going to talk about each one a little bit. Grants are typically free money that you don't have to pay back, usually or typically from the state or federal government. Now, in some cases, and especially at four-year universities, sometimes private schools especially will have institutional grants. Sometimes public schools do as well, but that is a possibility. But these are need-based aid, and you don't have to repay. One of the things that I let students know is specifically to the institutional scholarships or grants, the grants, I will speak to grants. A lot of middle class families won't necessarily, middle class or upper to middle class, don't necessarily qualify for the need-based grants from the state or federal government. However, sometimes they might be eligible for institutional grants. And I know that was my experience, or my daughter's experience when she applied. She went to Azusa Pacific University in Southern California, and our family didn't qualify for the federal grants, and we're out of state, and we wouldn't have qualified for the state grants, but we did qualify for institutional grants. So make sure that you're talking with your admissions counselors and things about those types of options. Typically, it will automatically be given to you on your financial aid letter if you're awarded, but it is something worth knowing. Scholarships take work and time. You have to apply for them typically separate. And one of the things I like to point out about scholarships is if you're applying for a scholarship, you find one online and they're asking for your name and email address to win a $10,000 scholarship, it's typically not legit, or if it is, they're going to sell your information and use it. So typically I like to say, if you're not doing work for a scholarship, you probably should skip it. It does take work, but the more scholarships you do, typically the easier they get, because you can oftentimes, I call it reduce, reuse, recycle, like the essays that you've written, and use pieces of them to answer the essay questions for other scholarships. There is no repayment for scholarships typically, and there's lots of available locally, regionally, nationally, and I'll talk tonight about our scholarship at the state of Oregon called the OSAC Scholarship. Work study is just an opportunity for you to work while you're going to school. And it is a need-based program through the federal government, but if you don't qualify for the federal work study program, you can still get a job on campus. There are non-work study jobs on campus, and students can use that money. It's just like getting a paycheck for any other job, but the benefit of work study or getting a job on campus is that your employer knows that every term your schedule is going to change, and they will work with you to get the hours that you need, to have those jobs. If you get a job off campus, that's great, but oftentimes you'll have to arrange your school schedule around your work hours, whereas at college, you'll be able to talk to your supervisor and let them know what your schedule is, and they'll help work around your work schedule. So that's really helpful. And you can use that money for personal expenses, paying directly to your tuition. Basically, it's just like getting a paycheck. How are you going to use that? It's up to you. Loans are obviously sometimes those necessary evils that we have to take out in order to make college possible. And I will talk a little bit more about that now. There are two different types of loans. There are private loans, and then there are federal loans. The private loans typically are done through a credit union or a bank, or online bank. And typically they have higher interest rates, and the majority of private loans you have to have a co-signer. So a parent or a grandparent, somebody needs to have to sign for your loan. So it might be in your student's name, but if the student were to default on that loan, the parent then would be responsible, or whoever the co-signer was would be responsible. And that's pretty typical for private loans. We encourage students and families to kind of shy away from that, but we understand that sometimes that is necessary. The federal loans, you have direct subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized are the better loans, okay? Subsidized, the interest is paid for you while you're in college. So the interest doesn't start accumulating. It is in the student's name, and they will start repaying it 6 months after they either leave school or graduation, and they leave at graduation. All right? Unsubsidized loans are student loans in their name, but you have to start, interest starts accruing. You don't have to necessarily start paying on it, but interest begins accruing right away. One of the things that I've encouraged students that I've talked to and known who have had to take out unsubsidized loans is to consider maybe some of your work study money or a job during the summer, or maybe even parents might be willing to help pay the interest as you're going through school so it doesn't balloon up. And you can do that to take away the interest. But that is up to you. You won't have to start paying on that loan like the subsidized until 6 months after you leave school. Parent Plus loans are also an option. There is an option for parents to take out money for their student, but in their name. So it's basically a loan for parents who might need some additional funds to help their student. And those do have a little bit higher interest rate. But that would be something that you will get information on your financial aid award letter when you receive it. The one thing I do want to mention about loans, and this is the hardest part of talking about loans, is there's a maximum amount of loans that a student can receive from the federal government every year. So for a first-year student going to college at freshman status is $5,500. And then $6,500 as a sophomore, and $7,500 as a junior or senior. And I see a lot of big eyes out there because, as we all know, tuition at a public university, four-year university, is oftentimes over $10,000. It is over $10,000. And so a student loan won't even cover half of tuition, not to mention room or housing and food. But that's why I'm talking with you tonight, because there's some of the things that we're going to be talking about is ways that you as a student can bridge the gap. 90% of the students who receive financial aid award letters will have a gap in what the school costs versus what financial aid they're going to receive from that school, okay? The one thing that I do want to point out, and I don't remember where I put this in there, but one of the things, one of the things that when we're talking about financial aid, in fact, I'll go to the next, oops. How come cost of attendance isn't in there? Okay, so I skipped a slide, I'm sorry about that. Cost of attendance is the first thing that I want to talk about. And cost of attendance is that sticker price that you see on financial aid websites, right? This is the cost to go to the school. And one of the things that I want to point out is there's indirect and direct how do I say that, Katie? Costs, thank you. Indirect and direct costs that a student will pay. Direct costs, what you're actually the bill that you're actually going to be getting from the school that you're paying directly to the school are your direct costs. So every year you'll get a statement from the billing office, and what you need to be paying them is typically your tuition and fees, and if you're living on campus, your housing and food, okay? Other parts of the cost of attendance are personal expenses. Their books and supplies, their travel expenses. All of that is worked into the cost of attendance. But what I like to give the example of is, let's say we're talking about travel expenses. The average student at a particular school has $2,000 travel expenses in their cost of attendance, okay? Are you going to necessarily pay $2,000 a year to take your kid back and forth to OSU? Because you live here in Dallas, it's right down the road. That's not $2,000 that you're going to spend. You're going to spend probably, $50 back and forth a few times, right? So you can take that as part of your cost of attendance and kind of sideline it. What you really need to focus on is what you are paying directly to the school, and then subtract the financial aid that you get to determine how much you're actually paying every year to the school. Does that make sense? Another example that I like to give is personal expenses. Every school has a personal expenses line. That can include things like cell phone bill, hygiene products, Starbucks, getting coffee. It works in the average student spends this much on that line of cost of attendance. And a student, like my daughter, she was just like, well, if I don't spend Starbucks money anymore, and Mom and Dad, you'll continue buying and paying for my shampoo and conditioner, and you'll send your kids to college with all of those things that are normally worked into your budget right now. That's not an expense that you're gonna have to pay. It's already part of your budget, your family budget that you already have. So when you look at that cost of attendance, really break it down, because what you really want to focus on is those direct costs that you're going to actually have to be paying a bill. And then what you do is you minus the financial aid that you get, and it makes it a lot more manageable when you're looking at that. The last thing I want to point about cost of attendance is books. Books, supplies, it's dependent every semester based on, or term, based on what classes you have. So sometimes it'll be more expensive, sometimes it'll be less expensive. And so that will fluctuate, and those will be costs that you have to do. However, at schools now, there's lending libraries, you can buy used books, you can buy books online, you can buy ebooks. There's a lot of ways to minimize those costs. And so look for those opportunities. Students often even share books these days. Find a friend who's taking the same class and share a book back and forth, have a study group. Those are kind of this cost savings that you can do to kind of look at that cost of attendance and go, okay, the direct cost is what we really need to focus on, and these other things we'll figure out as it goes. Going to the next step, I want to talk about the student aid index. This is the number that you receive based off the information you put on your financial aid award or financial aid application, the FAFSA or the ORSA application. And so this doesn't change from school to school. Once you receive this number from the federal government, it's just kind of going to follow you. And what they do is they determine what your financial need is as a family. So they take the cost of attendance, that sticker price that everybody has, that general number, minus your student aid index to determine how much your family need is. And that's how they determine what your financial aid award package is going to be. So now we're going to jump in order to create to receive an SAI, you need to fill out one of the financial aid applications, and there are two. If you have a social security number, you will be doing the FAFSA application. That application was set to open on December 1st, but the federal government has now opened the application, so it is open for all students and families. I wouldn't necessarily rush to do it, but I would do it sometime for sure in December to get that information out there. And you identify the different top choice schools that you're applying to and list those schools so your information will be sent to those schools. And then you'll be able to determine your financial aid award packages, and they'll send that to you. The ORSA application is a separate application for students who don't have a social security number, they're undocumented, or they have a DACA status. So that is a student application that we encourage students to complete. You do the ORSA application through OregonStudentAid.gov, the blue brochure that's on the table, that's where you would apply. And that application will open in December as well. In the middle, there's a little scan code, and that, if you aren't sure which application to apply for, on our website, there's a filter tool, and you can just log in, and it'll take you through a filter to determine which application you need to apply for. The first step of completing the FAFSA application is to create a student account or an account at the Department of Education. It's also known as the FSA ID. And this is important to do. You want to do this now, and it takes a couple days for your information to get verified through the Social Security Administration. So don't think you can do your FSA ID and then quickly jump into your application. You will want to do this step a couple days before you do the application. If you jump right into the application and your FSA ID has not been confirmed through the Social Security Administration, what's going to happen is you are going to have to enter manually all of your information into the application. But if you wait for the confirmation, it directly links to the IRS, and it'll automatically drop in your information from your taxes into the form, and it'll save you a lot of money. Sorry, my voice is getting a little choppy. So this is your legal signature. It's an electronic signature, and it follows you from here until forever. So this would be a great thing to put in your username and password key safe, because it will follow you from here forward. If you lose it, it's kind of a pain to get everything turned back around. Parents, you will have to create an FSA ID as well if you haven't already. If you have an older child who has already applied for the FAFSA, you probably already have an FSA ID. And so, or if you've been in school yourself, you will probably already have an FSA ID. To determine who provides that information on the FAFSA, typically, and I know this is really small, but I'll just kind of walk you through it. If you are a student under 24 years of age, which is pretty much everybody here, unless there are very, very, very specific circumstances, like you're married, or you have a child, or you're in the military, or you've been, there's just several ways that you can get out of not having your parents complete the information on the FAFSA. However, very few, 99% probably of the students in this room will have to include parent information. And that parent information, at least one parent needs an FSA ID if you file taxes jointly, okay? If you don't file taxes jointly, if you file separately as parents, you will need to have separate FSA IDs, all right? Every contributor will need an FSA ID, so students and parents to access the FAFSA, and every contributor must provide consent. And basically, consent just means that you're allowing the IRS to drop the information into the FAFSA application. Consent, or being a contributor, I hate that they chose that word, because that does not mean that you are contributing to your child's education. It means that you are contributing information on the FAFSA application, all right? So that's something important to know. There is a parent wizard within the application, the FAFSA application, that can help you determine which parent needs to complete the application, especially those families that are mixed, maybe have divorced families and students are living at multiple homes. To determine which parents need to complete the FAFSA, you can use the parent wizard. That's done within the application, but it's also separate from the application, and you can look at that and determine which parent will need to provide that information. Okay. So the ORSA application is pretty much, follows very similar information. However, the application itself, you will need to use your email address as your signature, and both parents and students need different email addresses, their own individual email addresses to sign the ORSA application, if that's the application that you're going to use. That application is not open right now, and it will open in December. Grants. So the state of Oregon, based off of the FAFSA information, if you have listed Oregon colleges or universities on your FAFSA that you want the information sent to, you will automatically be considered for the state Oregon Opportunity Grant. And that will follow you to whatever school that you are going to be attending, as long as it's in the state of Oregon and if you qualify. That is based on need. And so every student will be automatically considered for it, but not every student will receive it. Every student also should create an account with OregonStudentAid.gov, and this account will give you access to additional grants and scholarships. The few that I want to point out, the Oregon Promise we'll talk more about in the next couple slides. Chafee grant is for foster care youth. Child care grant, unless you have a dependent, a child yourself, you won't necessarily use that group grant. Oregon Tribal Student Grant is for any student who is a member of one of the 9 confederated tribes in the state of Oregon. If you're interested in going part-time military, the National Guard has a full tuition assistance grant that can be used at either private or public schools. And then the OSAC scholarship. The Oregon Teacher Scholars Program is something that you can apply for, but you have to have already been accepted into an education program. So if you want to become a teacher, this is something that you might look at your junior year or right before your junior year of college when you're going into the education program. And then the OSAC scholarship, which I'll give you more information about. But all of these things you can apply for using that one account creation that you would do. And this is what it would look like. Basically, the first part of creating an account just provides general information about you, the school that you attend, your GPA. And then, this is why I put it up here, it gives you an example. Our password must be 12 characters, including digits, uppercase letter, lowercase, and a symbol. So this is just one example of the many out there of different ways you're going to have to do usernames and passwords. My voice, I'm sorry. The Oregon Promise. How many of you have heard of the Oregon Promise? Great. This grant helps pay tuition costs up to 12 credits per term at any Oregon community college. And there's 17 in Oregon. So you don't have to go to your local community college, Chemeketa down the road, although we'd love for you to go to Chemeketa. You could choose any one of the Oregon community colleges out there. There are some community colleges in the state, 4 to be exact, that have on-campus living. So you could get the experience of going to a 4-year school at a reduced rate in some cases. You have to have a 2.0 GPA or higher, and then you must begin community college within 6 months of graduation, which basically means if you graduate in June, you need to start in the fall. An SAI, that number that is calculated by the FAFSA, may be considered, but it may not too. Out of the 8 years that we've had the Oregon Promise, about 5 or 6 of them, anybody who applied received the Oregon Promise grant. And then there's some years that, based off of legislature and the budgets, there has had to be a SAI limit, so a family income limit based off of the SAI to receive the award. This last year that was the case, but in the previous year there was no limit. So it really truly is based off of your legislature and the funding that we have. How to apply? You want to list an Oregon Community College on your FAFSA application and then do a very simple literally it takes 5 to 10 minutes to do this application. You do the OregonStudentAid.gov create an account that I showed you right there before. And then once you have that complete, literally the next screen, there's 2 questions. You answer 2 questions and then you've applied. So it's super simple. We ask all seniors with a 2.0 or higher to apply. This is a great backup plan, even if you're planning on going to a four-year university or you think you might want to go into the military. You never know what life is going to throw at you. I have had some years when I was working with students where I had a student going to a four-year elite college on the East Coast, and his dad got cancer in the spring. And he's just like, I can't go across the country, I need to be home. And this was his backup plan, and he was able to go to community college and be at home with his family. You know, I've had students say, I'm going to the military and I'm going to do this, and then they go up to, you know, they do all of their paperwork, and for some reason, there's a medical reason that they can't go into the military, and they don't have a backup plan. I also have students who are planning on going to that four-year college, and they receive their financial aid award letter, and that gap is just too much, and they need to start at community college, and that's okay. But having a backup plan, I tell students, I go, you guys, this is life. You have to have plan A, plan B, and plan C, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. So we would encourage you to do the Oregon Promise application. And because I'm talking to a group in Polk County, but Chemeketa services the Polk County area, for students who have a 3.5 GPA or higher, you also have access to Chemeketa Scholars. And the Chemeketa Scholars program, what it does is it gives you up to 18 credits per term for tuition, okay? So if you get Oregon Promise for up to 12 credits per term, you get Chemeketa Scholars for up to 18 credits per term. If students look at me and go, how do you get tuition twice? Well, you don't. My son decided to go to community college for the first 2 years. He used Oregon Promise and Chemeketa Scholars, and every term after everything went through billing and everything, depending on how many credits he was taking, he would get a check in the mail for the difference. So every term he would get anywhere from $100 to $300 that he ended up pocketing, and then we put that money towards when he transferred to his four-year university. That helped out reduce the costs a little bit. So if you have the option, you have over a 3.5, you should definitely be applying for both Chemeketa Scholars and Oregon Promise. All right, let's talk about scholarships. Scholarships, the OSAC scholarship I'm going to focus on because that's the state of Oregon scholarship. There's over 600 scholarships in this one application, and you can apply for multiple scholarships using this one application. All right, so this is a great opportunity for you. The way you get into it is you actually, when you create that OSAC account that I showed you at the beginning, one of the options is apply for Oregon Promise, apply for the scholarship. And so you would just continue the scholarship application through OregonStudentAid.gov account. Our application opened November 1st. The early bird deadline is February 18th, and the final deadline is March 3rd this year, because March 1st is on a Saturday. So you do need to put Oregon, or you need to complete a FAFSA application, but not all of the scholarships in the OSAC application are based on need. So even if you have a higher income or your family has a higher income, there are scholarships that are available that aren't necessarily based on need. And they're from a variety of different donors. Basically what the state has done is there are organizations, private donors, who have basically said, we want to help students go to college and we want you to manage it for us. And so that's what the OSAC scholarship does, and we are able to manage all of these to help students have access to lots of different scholarships in one place. So that's really helpful. These are the different elements of the OSAC scholarship. But what I want to point out is whether you're doing the OSAC scholarship or any other scholarship, these are the elements of all scholarships for the most part. There's going to be personal statements, or some of the scholarships are called essays. Every essay is going to be a different, length based on what the requirements are for the scholarship. All scholarships will have a student profile section where you're giving the base information. An activities chart, or some scholarships require an activities resume. Basically, it's the same information, it's just listing what have you done outside the classroom. And then transcripts are usually needed for scholarships. In addition, sometimes there's additional documentation, like maybe a recommendation letter is required for a scholarship. That's an example of another type of documentation that might be required. These are our personal statements that we use, and the statements that you will be required to write a personal statement for. The top 3 are required, but one of the things that our office decided to do is we went out there and we looked, and these are very typical scholarship essay questions. You will find these types of questions on scholarships all over the place. So remember at the beginning where I said, the more scholarships you do, the easier it gets. If you do these 3 scholarship essay prompts really well, you can probably reduce, reuse, recycle them for other scholarships, all right? One thing that I do want to point out, and this is important, the very first question says, what are your specific educational plans and career goals and why? What motivates you to achieve them? How many questions is that actually? There's 3 questions in that first question. And as a reader for scholarships, oftentimes what we see is the first chunk, the big, 85% of the question is being answered by that very first question. What are your specific educational plans and career goals? And then they get to the answer and they go, oh, I have to say why and what motivates you. And then they squish in at the very end why and the motivation. So when you're looking at any scholarship application, it's really important to identify what that scholarship said, what the prompt means, and how many parts of it, so you can spread out your answer and make sure that you fully answer the question. That's going to be really important. The activities chart, our activities chart requires dates, specific dates that you have participated in that activity, hours logged, and responsibilities accomplished. There'll be a section for each of those things for each of the activities that you list. And one of the things a lot of people ask about the hours logged, and they get all worried about, oh, how do I know? Like, if I've been in soccer all 4 years of high school, how do I figure that out? And literally, it's very simple. Identify during the season, how many days of practice do you have and how many hours, on average, do you do? Then talk about the games. How many games a week do you do? How long does that last? Times it, by the number of weeks in a season, and then times it by 4. We're looking for a general estimate. One of the things that we really encourage you to do is highlight the things that are most important to you, that you're most passionate about, that you have put in the quality and quantity, not necessarily the quantity events, like I volunteered for the blood drive one time, but maybe you've been on a team for 4 years. You'd want to put the team first on the list, right? So the most important things to you, where you've spent the most energy, what you're passionate about. And then if you can work those things into your essays and personal statements to tell a little bit about what you learned from those things, that's going to be really beneficial. Our sections, you include school activities, volunteering, and paid work history. I will tell you that there are different activities that you are involved in that don't easily fit into any of those categories. Like if you're a part of a youth group, or maybe you're a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout, well, that's not a school activity, it's not really volunteering, and it's not paid work history, so where do I put it? Don't worry about that as much. Just, it's an activity, so you're in school, you can put it in the activities section. But just get it on the list, and the list is the most important thing. So don't overthink it. Telling your story is the reason and purpose for the activities chart as well as the essays. And that's really, we want to learn more about you, what you're passionate about, what your dreams are, what your goals are. The more that we get to know you, the more your voice comes out in your work, probably the better chance you will have to receive an award. So identify the things that you're interested in and just start making a list. What have you been involved in? How has that impacted your life? Brainstorm that together with friends, with family. Sometimes it takes a while to go back and say, okay, what was I involved in my freshman year, my sophomore year, and have people help you with that process. Who reads your applications? For us, our scholarships, we have a variety of people. The donors who are actually donating the money sometimes ask to review their scholarships. Sometimes they say, no, we're good, we'll let you decide who gets our award. And then we have former teachers, we have our OSAC staff that reads the scholarships, and then we also have volunteers from the community who just have decided to volunteer to read essays. So you have a wide variety, but one of the things that I do want to point out is to know your audience. The majority of these people are going to be my age or older, so that's something to consider. And I would also, when you're thinking about any outside scholarships, not just our scholarship, but other scholarships, it is important to know, I'm applying for this scholarship, go to their website. What's their mission? What's their vision? If you're applying for a Rotary scholarship, which is a local scholarship, what's important to that organization? How can I write my essay to reflect the values that are in that organization to have a better shot? How can I make that connection? That's really, really important to know the audience that you're speaking to through your essays when you're doing scholarships. So with that example, Rotary, one of their main focuses is community service. Okay, so what community service activity have you done over the years that you're passionate about, that maybe you could tie to what you want to do for the future? If you can't tie it to a future career option, why was it important to you to do this work? Those are the types of things that you need to consider. A few extra things, make sure that you answer the entire question. I've talked about that a little bit. Avoid repeating the question. So a lot of times in essays and stuff for class, you have to have the main sentence and you repeat that. Don't do that. Just answer the question because you only have so many words. And we want to really get to the meat of what we're asking about. You don't want to use up extra words that you don't need to. And then speaking to the audience, you want to avoid slang, abbreviations, and humor that your reader, the person reading your scholarship, isn't going to understand. All right? So however, if humor is a really big part of who you are as a person, you want that to come out, right? And I get that, but just make sure you have multiple people who have eyes on it and who have read it and think that, they're reading it like it's intended. And I would encourage students to have parents read it or teachers read it just to get that feedback. All right, and then there's lots of scholarships, not just our scholarship. Like I said, your college and career advisor, definitely make sure that You go in, you talk to them, no matter what school you're from, you have somebody that you can go to. And then also, parents, if you're involved in organizations, you're part of a bank or a credit union, oftentimes organizations that you're a part of or members of will have scholarships that you may not even know about. Ask the question, talk to your employers. If you're a part of a union, make sure that you ask your union rep if there's a scholarship. Also reach out to grandparents, because oftentimes there's organizations that they might be a part of that have additional scholarships for dependents or grandchildren to apply for. So reach out there and look at all opportunities. The number one place, though, that I would start with scholarships besides the OSAC scholarship is the colleges that you're applying to. All right? All of you at this point hopefully have your top choice schools that you are looking to apply to. If you haven't applied already, you need to. The majority of institutions who have additional scholarships that you can apply for, you have to have been applied and been accepted before you can do their scholarship application. All right? There's a lot of schools out there who have their priority deadlines, which is their college application deadlines, really tightly close to when the scholarship deadline is. And if you bump right up to that priority deadline and get your scholarship or your application in last minute, oftentimes you won't get your response back of acceptance before you have the opportunity to apply for their scholarships. And institutional scholarships are where a lot of students get the majority of their funds. And so make sure that you are identifying your top choice schools, getting those applications in, and then identifying those scholarships that you can be applying for. Does that make sense? And then just look out there. There are websites available. College and Career Center will have different additional websites that you can go on. I saw over here, there's a handout, the Get Schooled Scholarships, which is a great national scholarship webpage. Don't limit yourself though. Students, it takes a lot of work to do scholarships, but let's say you spend 10 hours doing scholarships, okay? You're putting your head down, you're doing scholarships, you're doing multiple scholarships. You do 10 scholarship applications in 10 hours, you push them out there, and you get one scholarship for $1,000. You're like, oh bummer, I just got one, that's not great. But how much did you just make per hour? $100. Raise your hand if you've ever made it, well, some of you might have, but if you've ever made $100, I haven't made $100 an hour. Students, this can be one of the best paid jobs you have ever had or will ever have. And so you have to consider the benefit, okay? So take your time, reach out to your resources, your college and career advisors, and get their help finding the different scholarships. Identify them, put them on your calendar, make sure that you meet those deadlines, and just apply, because you never know. All right, so these are your next steps. File your FAFSA number 1. Number 2, apply to college, because right now that's what you should be doing. Make an OSAC student portal profile, apply for the Oregon Promise, and then apply for scholarships. That's kind of your list of things to do from this point forward. My boss likes to know that I'm actually out doing what I'm saying I'm doing, so if you could just take real quick your phone and scan this code, and just, it's a very short form. I would love to get your feedback. Thank you very much. Yeah, get it.
to let me know when Okay. Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening. I'm here from Western Oregon University. My name is Ricardo. So if you have any questions, I'm your point of contact for admissions. Briefly, I'll kind of share some general information about admissions and also financial aid in case any of you are interested in Western or maybe have already applied. So before I talk about our tuition and fees, I do want to just kind of remind everyone that the Western application is already live. So students can either apply on the Common App or directly on our website. It's free to apply to Western and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Simply you just need your application and transcripts. You don't need to fill out any essays or letters of recommendation unless we do request them. Typically that's more for the students that didn't meet the admissions requirements, which are pretty straightforward of a 2.75 GPA and a C- or better in your core subjects such as language arts, math up to algebra 2, science, social sciences, and 2 years of a second language as well. But now, before I talk about some scholarship opportunities, I also do want to share some brief tuition and fees here from Western Oregon University. So before I do talk about this as well, I do want to just kind of remind everyone, if your students are going to Western, it's completely optional if they're attending WU and do want to live on campus or off campus. So Western does have a first-year living requirements for any freshman students attending. They do have to live in the dorms, but since you all live close enough to us, we'll go ahead and give you that option. But just as a reminder, you do have to live at home with parents or guardians if you are opting out. So that's kind of the only question that we'll ask you for if you do opt out of the dorms. So for the entire year at Western, if you're taking classes and are paying all the essential fees that kind of keep the library going, the rec center and all the buildings across campus going, you're looking at around $11,514. That number of course can fluctuate depending on how many credits you're taking. This number is the average based off 15 credits per term. And at public university, that's typically what an average student takes to graduate within their 4 years. And if you are a student that's going to decide to take the opportunity to live on campus and get that full college experience, you're looking at around $12,528. So together, a student taking classes and living on campus for the year is looking at around $24,042. But if you're going to decide to live at home and make college a little bit more affordable, you're just looking at around $11,000 to $12,000 for the entire year. We are quarterly scheduled college, so typically students do get that bill split into 3. But just as a reminder, that bill is for the entire year. And on average, your bill, if you're living off campus, is around $3,000 to $4,000 for the year, and if not, about double if you are living on campus as well. In terms of scholarship opportunities, Western does have many different scholarships you can apply for. We have one application called the WU General Scholarship. It has over 200 scholarships. Last year we had about 250 scholarships that only students that are admitted into the college and already actively attending can apply for. So a lot of these scholarships range from anywhere from $1,000 up to $3,000 for the most part, but then we do have a few scholarship opportunities that are much larger. For example, we have our Diversity Commitment Scholarship that is $6,000 for up to 5 years, or we have a Bilingual Teacher Scholarship Program that is $3,000 for up to 5 years as well. But a lot of these scholarships are already from the university itself, but they also do have external scholarships. So if you're just wanting to do the WU General Scholarship, you're going to fill out one application asking about your grades in high school, what involvement you were in, whether it's volunteer, sports, or any other clubs or organizations that you're involved in. And then we'll also have a very small essay prompt, which is actually a very similar question usually than the OSAC scholarship question. So you can always definitely use that and just kind of adjust as needed. And then, just as you do have to be, like I said, admitted to the university. Our priority deadline is January 15th. So if you already are accepted, you probably already have access to this and already received the email saying you can apply for scholarships. But if you haven't applied, there's still definitely plenty of time. So definitely go ahead and start doing that as early as needed as well. Secondly, we also have the OSAC scholarship, which basically, I won't go too much into it since I know Rochelle kind of highlighted that, but also has a very similar deadline. So both Western scholarships and the OSAC scholarship do close on March 1st, so important deadline. And a lot of other public universities, since we're one of the 7 in the state of Oregon, do have that deadline as well for their scholarships, and they'll have a similar process, whether it's the same scholarship application through the scholarship universe, or also very similar deadlines as well. In terms of merit scholarships, these are actually ones that we give automatically to any student that gets accepted. So if you already received your acceptance letter, you probably already heard back from one of these scholarships. But for any of you that are considering still applying for Western, you can get anywhere from $1,000 up to the maximum, which is $5,000 for the year. And of course, you still have the rest of the year. So if you finish up graduating with a much higher GPA, we'll go ahead and honor you the larger scholarship amount. So for example, someone with a 3.0 would get 1,000, or someone, let's say, with a 3.95 and higher would get 5,000, and that, as you guys saw previously, almost covers half of tuition if you're living off campus. So one great scholarship opportunity that we do have, and it does say renewable up there, so the criteria to continue receiving this every year that you're at Western is essentially just passing the minimum amount of credits for the year, which is about 36 or 12 per term, and also maintaining a 3.0 GPA or higher. Then we also have a transfer merit scholarship, which is a very similar thing for anyone that does attend a community college first, and then decides to come to Western later on. So for 3.0 to 3.49, we'll get you 1,000, and 3.5 or higher will get you 2,500. That's kind of it in terms of some scholarship opportunities that we do have. But I do just kind of want to give you some brief, quick updates, which are FAFSA will be opening December 1st. I know it kind of unofficially already opened, so some of you can already start applying for that. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Since we do have our early FAFSA filing deadline, which is April 1st, so for any student that is Pell Grant eligible from the state of Oregon and filed FAFSA by that deadline would also get 1,000 in fee remission. So you can kind of see it as $1,000 off from Western or as a scholarship. But beside that, I already also highlighted this, but the Wu General Scholarship is already open and will be closing March 1st. So that's kind of my brief updates, and I'll go ahead and pass it on to Jake right now. When I forgot to mention, a lot of the information I highlighted is also on the red booklet, so if you haven't got one, they'll be at the entrance as well, so you can kind of refer back to it.
Give them another class. How many are ready to go to college? My name is George, and I am the academic advisor here at the Temecula Dallas Polk Center, the coordinator also for the center. I have with me Dennis. He's our accommodations specialist here that serves students that have a disability and need to get that that assistance to apply, get accommodations for your classes. Rochelle talked about some of that gap. So you get your FAFSA, you get your Oregon Promise, and still not enough to cover your college cost. That's what I want to talk to you tonight about. There's 3 programs that I want to highlight from Temecula that fill that gap. Let's look. The first one is the SNAP Training and Employment Program. On the table back there, there's a postcard. So the SNAP Training and Employment Program is for those that are receiving SNAP benefits. If your household is receiving SNAP benefits and you're part of that household, that's SNAP. For those that don't know, that's the food stamp benefits through DHS. And you're not receiving, the household is not receiving TANF, which is the cash benefit. This GAP funding program helps pay for additional materials or supplies that you might need for a specific career technical program. Anybody here want to do like a welding or automotive or welding? Which one?
Probably welding.
Welding. So welding, you have to have your, helmet, gloves, some grinders, tips for your welding equipment. That STEP program pays for those materials. Anybody want to do automotive? Automotive, there's a tool list about $3,000 to $4,000 of tools that you have to have the first day of the term. STEP program helps cover that cost. So it doesn't come out of your pocket or your financial aid award, which usually doesn't get awarded till after you're in classes. So STEP program is one application, can't be on TANF, and it's either for a career technical program, your GD, or ESL classes, English for speakers of other languages. So some of those navigating this application is just talk to me. We'll help you navigate that application. So that's the STEP program. The next one is legislature. In the last couple of years, the state has given community college future ready monies. We have a career pathways program, or community pathways careers. So anybody wanting to go into healthcare? I saw a hand back there.
My kid is.
Okay, so healthcare, which could be like medical assistant, basic nursing assistant like a CNA, what else? Phlebotomy. So anything in healthcare, and it's a short-term career, or manufacturing like welding, automotive, machining, truck driving, computer, there's a list. So there's always a list. Computer-aided manufacturing, numerical controlled, CNC, apprenticeship programs, and then technology, like anything in computer systems or electronics. So the Career Pathways program is also that gap funding program. It can help pay for tools, materials, transportation. We have a high school student that graduated a couple of years ago from Dallas. She did our first year here at Chemeketa at the Polk Center, didn't go to Salem, is now on her second term of medical assisting program, but it's all the way in McMinnville. Every week she gets a $25 gas card. I want a $25 gas card every week to come to work. She gets a gas card from this program just to go to her classes. And she got her scrub, she got her stethoscope, she got special shoes for the medical assisting program, from this program. Also, if you need state exams to get certified, this program and also the STEP program covers those state exams. Enhanced advanced advising, so it's just another way of saying you get an extra person looking at your classes, making sure that you're on track to graduate. And then textbooks. I wish I had somebody to pay my textbooks when I was going to college. So textbooks and tuition assistance. So whatever doesn't get covered by FAFSA, Oregon Promise. Here's the thing, sometimes these programs pay before FAFSA gets paid out. So distribution usually, like at Chemeketa, is on the 2nd, so next term, January 2nd. Sometimes students apply for this program, they get their tuition, they get registered in November, and you know what? They already have the bill. The STEP program or CCP program can pay for that tuition or that cost. Then when your financial aid comes, that usually just goes to the students' pockets. Great opportunities. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the Inclusive Career and Advancement Program, ICAP. We love acronyms at Chemeketa. It's for those students that have a disability or are on a 504 or an IEP to continue that process to go to college. So the Youth Transition Specialist or Pre-Employment Support Services person here at the local school district helps them. They apply to work with VR, that's vocational rehab. They get a counselor, and then they say, I want to go to school. I want to go and continue my education at a community college. So they meet with the ICAP advisor at Chemeketa, and then they get that funding and business liaison person also to help them get that job experience after they complete their education.
Right, and we work closely with Sylvia, who runs this program for Chemeketa, and it's a 5-year grant, so it's take advantage of it because we don't know if it's going to continue. So one of the things we'd like to see is if you have a disability, been on a 504 plan or IEP, please come see us, and then we can connect you with vocational rehabilitation. We could also connect you with Sylvia with the ICAP program.
And that's it. So we have about 94 different CTE programs that are available here district-wide. So if you are considering Chemeketa or the 4-year college, please stop by. We also, here at the local Dallas Center, you can do your first year of general ed classes without having to go to Salem. So that's your writings, your math, some science, some social sciences, and your arts and letters, or humanities. So, thank you. That's it.
Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Good. I'm not the caboose, but we're almost there. My name is Katie Campbell. I am a Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Willamette University, and I am your admissions counselor here in the Willamette Valley. So I am here to talk a little bit more, two screens, I don't know which one to look at. I'm here to talk about the private college side, and I'll talk very generally, this is going to be very broad strokes, about financing a private education, and then I'll drill down just a little bit more specifically about Willamette University. So, first and foremost, the most commonly known thing about private colleges is that they look expensive, right? High sticker prices. Well, we are that expensive because there's a different kind of education that you're getting at a private college. Things like smaller class sizes, classes that are taught by faculty members, not by teaching assistants, or graduate students. Private colleges typically have larger endowments though. So while our sticker prices look very high, that's often not what students are actually paying to go to a small private college. These larger endowments allow us to direct more dollars towards the students who are coming to our institutions to bring down that cost of attendance. So we help you pay for the education at our schools. So the biggest thing to take away from this, if you are looking at private colleges at all, if you want to look at private colleges because you like the idea of being at a smaller school, don't let the sticker price run the conversation. There are a lot of ways that we can help make this affordable in combination with everything that Rochelle was talking about. You can bring these costs down really, really far. So, bottom line, it is always worth applying to see what you're going to get. Let's talk about that institutional aid, and this is something that Rochelle alluded to when she was talking about that total cost of attendance, and where a lot of that aid comes from is directly from the institution. So we, the colleges, are going to award things like scholarships and grants. This is free money that we are giving you. And this is going to look a little bit different between what is a scholarship and what is a grant. A scholarship is something that a student is going to apply for. And this kind of boils down to merit scholarships and competitive scholarships. Again, these are broad strokes. Some colleges are going to categorize these types of scholarships differently, but generally speaking, that's what you can expect out of the scholarship side from colleges and universities. Merit scholarships and competitive scholarships. Grants are based on need, and some of these grants are going to come directly from the institutions that you are applying to, particularly if you are applying to private colleges that again have larger endowments and that ability to direct more dollars towards the students. So in the case of Willamette, we will have to file the FAFSA to be considered for our institutional grants. Remember, this is free money. Grants and scholarships do not have to be repaid. It is a gift to you. Merit scholarships. What is a merit scholarship? How do you earn that merit scholarship? So typically, again, broad strokes, merit scholarships are going to be based on academic achievement. So things like your GPA, the grades that you've earned in your classes, that's certainly going to be a factor, but also the types of classes that you've chosen to challenge yourself with may be a factor in that as well. So that's rigor in the coursework that is available to you. Demonstrated writing ability. Something that Rochelle said that I think it resonates with all of us who work in college admissions. Writing well pays dividends. You have to be able to write well. And that is something that's going to be a factor in a merit scholarship. or any scholarship, because you're going to have to write a little essay or a little personal statement. And that writing ability may be demonstrated through that personal statement or that essay that you're responding to a specific question in that scholarship application. Or you may have the option of submitting something that you have already written, just depending on the type of school that you're applying to and their admissions and merit scholarship requirements. Merit scholarships may also be based on demonstrated leadership. So your activities and involvement. These may be formal or informal activities. They could be based in your school or in your community. You may have family responsibilities. You may have a paid job. You may have paid or unpaid internships or apprenticeships. These are all different kinds of activities. And a merit scholarship may be based on all of these different things. Now, every college is different. And every college is going to set kind of their own persnickety little rules around how merit scholarships are awarded. So one statement does not cover all things here. So here are some essential questions that you should be asking all of the schools that you're applying to so that you understand the differences in these merit scholarships between institutions. So how are the merit scholarships awarded? Are they awarded automatically? Or do you need to apply separately for them? Are there additional application materials required? Do you have to submit test scores, SAT or ACT scores? Do you actually need to demonstrate a particular level of financial need to have all of this considered for a merit scholarship? What is renewable and what do you need to reapply for? And what do you need to do to keep that merit scholarship? Make sure you understand all of these things for the schools, for each of the schools that you are applying to, whether they are public or whether they are private. Just some of the recommendations around merit scholarships. Competitive scholarships, on the other hand, these are those special scholarships that our schools are going to have that are going to require separate applications for each of them. And all of those applications are going to look just a little bit different. They all have different requirements. Generally speaking, again, broad strokes, they may be a talent-based scholarship, so things like performing arts or visual arts, or maybe debate, speech and debate. Those could be particular talent areas for students. And if there is an opportunity for students to participate in those talent-based programs at a school, maybe there's a scholarship for it that you could apply for. There also may be scholarships based on academic interests. And if you plan on majoring in computer science, or you know you want to major in theater or biology, there might be a specific scholarship for that major, and it's always worth applying for those scholarships. And asking these essential questions. What are the required application materials for each of these applications? Do you have to have applied for admission? As Ricardo said, some of these scholarships, you already need to have your offer of admission before you can have access to these scholarships. In other cases, you may only need to have just applied for admission to have access to these scholarships. Do you have to have filed the FAFSA or the ORSA to be considered for these scholarships? And do you need to demonstrate a particular level of financial need with that application? Can you apply for more than one of these scholarships? Can you stack these scholarships, which means, can you add them together? Can you add them with other institutional aid that's been automatically awarded, like those merit scholarships? Are they automatically renewable, or do you need to keep reapplying for them? And the most important question, just like merit scholarships, what do you need to do to keep that scholarship? Because that is going to be different for each of the scholarships that you might be applying to from these different schools. Okay, so this is what this looks like at Willamette University. Everything is stackable at Willamette. So all of these things add together. Students need to apply for admissions in order to be considered for these merit scholarship awards. Every single admitted student receives a merit scholarship. And now all you need to do is complete your common application, submit your official high school transcript, a letter of recommendation from your school counselor, and your school report form. That is all you need to submit in order to be considered for admission and for the merit scholarship. I will also add that the common application is an application for college admission. It is not a general scholarship application, although many colleges like Willamette will use that information in that application for admission to consider students for that merit scholarship. And now for, where are my seniors in the room? Fabulous, thank you. Or parents of seniors. I should include those seniors who are not here. This merit scholarship range is what you're looking at this year. So 26 to 34,000. These are automatically renewable. Students just need to be in good academic standing and maintain full-time enrollment status to keep that scholarship and have it roll over every year. Now, if you applied for early admission, that deadline was on November 1st. And I read a couple of those applications earlier today. You're automatically being considered for our Leaders Award, which adds $1,000 to that merit scholarship. And now this is common practice. If there are other schools with early deadlines that you are applying for admission to, they may be automatically considering for you for those as well. So it's always worth it to hit those early deadlines. Competitive scholarships. These range from $2,000 to $12,000 at Willamette. We have talent-based scholarships. We have academic interest scholarships that are specific to majors. We also have some endowed scholarships that we will automatically consider students for depending on their level of financial need, demonstrated leadership, or in the case of our computer and data science, if they mention anywhere in their application for admission that they have an interest in data or computer science, that they will automatically be considered for these. Any one of these competitive or endowed scholarships will add to your merit scholarship and your Leaders Award. And then the FAFSA. And this is why it is always worth it to file the FAFSA. I grew up in a farming family myself in the Midwest, which I know is very common here in the Willamette Valley. And sometimes those farms, those family businesses, they can make it look like a middle-income family can afford a private education, but that's not necessarily going to be the reality. And so there may be families here who are saying, we're not going to file the FAFSA because we're not going to qualify for anything. When your student is applying for admission to private colleges like Willamette University, filing the FAFSA is like taking out an insurance policy. You have it there just in case. And it gives you a little bit of leverage to ask for more. And I'll talk about why that matters later. But we will automatically consider that difference, that gap in what we've awarded in merit aid and what our total cost of attendance is and what you may or may not qualify for on the FAFSA, and see if there is anything that we can preemptively do to award you a little bit more in terms of grant aid. Some of our scholarships do require the FAFSA, like our STEM scholarship is partially endowed by the National Science Foundation, and they expect to see families demonstrating a particular level of need for that. So for some of these scholarships, it is required, but it is just generally a good practice to file that FAFSA. And outside scholarships, all of those OSAC scholarships will stack on top. All of your federal grants, all of your state grants, this will all add up when you're applying to Willamette University. And here's what that looks like. Total cost of attendance for this current freshman class is a very scary $71,622. The lowest award that we gave was $25,000. The highest award that we gave was full cost of attendance. Merit, the average merit scholarship, so before anything else, that average merit scholarship was $29,500, and that award range was $25,000 to $33,000. So seniors, you're looking at just a little bit more in merit aid this coming year. The average total aid offer, $45,500, and that included merit scholarships, grants, and federal loans, those subsidized and unsubsidized loans that Rochelle mentioned. That brought the average cost of attendance down to a little over $26,000. That means tuition was fully covered, as well as a little bit of housing and food. So suddenly, this private college that has a very high sticker price actually becomes a lot more affordable because it's a lot more comparable to attending a state public institution. So don't write off the private colleges. Just a little bit about Willamette. We award over $42 million in scholarships annually. Every single one of our admitted students receive some form of financial aid, and for us, that takes shape in a merit scholarship that's automatically awarded. All of our competitive and outside scholarships automatically stack together, they all add up, and every single student is able to work. Rochelle mentioned work study. That is money that goes into your pocket, and some students qualify for federally funded work study. We are able to fund every single student to have a job on campus. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, some tips for interpreting financial aid packages, because we all like to do things a little bit differently. There's no standard form for how these scholarship packages come together, and as much as we wish there was, there isn't. So here are some things that you need to be aware of, and how you can be a more savvy consumer and a more savvy reader of these financial aid packages when you get them. Understand what is free money and what is borrowed. Look for those keywords like grants, scholarships, and loans, okay? That's how you differentiate what is free and what you are borrowing. Focus on the net price. It's so easy to say, College A awarded me this huge merit scholarship. College B awarded me a slightly lower merit scholarship. It's not quite as much money. What are you paying out of your pocket? That higher merit scholarship award may actually not be covering as much of the cost of attendance as that slightly smaller merit scholarship, because there may be a cost difference in those two institutions. Focus on that net price after the scholarships and the grants. What are you actually going to be paying out of your pocket? And just to reinforce some of the things that Rochelle said about the loans, federal loans are not that scary. There are responsible repayment options that are often based on income. They help students build credit to demonstrate that they are financially responsible and that they can pay back money that they have borrowed. Private loans, Parent Plus loans. Willamette is the kind of institution that will do anything we can to help families avoid private loans. They are not your best option because they have those higher those higher interest rates. So be very aware of aid offers that include additional loans beyond the federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans, okay? If they are automatically including those Parent Plus loans, those require separate applications and that cosigner. But it can make it look like a really attractive financial aid package when that's included. Just make sure that you know exactly what those are. Don't be afraid to ask for more. When you've checked all the boxes, you've done everything you can, you've applied for admission, you've received your merit scholarship, you've applied for those competitive scholarships, you've applied for those OSAC scholarships, You have filed your FAFSA. You've done everything you can. And it's your favorite college, but it's not quite there. Do not be afraid to go to that admissions counselor, that financial aid office, and just ask if there isn't any kind of option for additional grants, okay? Willamette is the kind of place where we will look at everything that we have given a student, and if there is anything else that we can do, we will absolutely do that. And if that difference is $2,500 to $3,000, that is something that we can often do, especially if that $2,500 to $3,000 is something that's not accounted for when you filed your FAFSA. So don't be afraid to ask for more. Okay. That's everything that I have, and you wanted to...
Yeah, and I'll be
a
the
little bit
caboose
more.
in this train. Thanks, Katie. I'm going to echo, I'm going to echo what she said on that last point. My oldest son, 35, 30, whatever, he's older, went to Willamette a while ago. It was one of his top 5 schools. He really liked it. Was looking at schools in California. I went to the admissions counselor. He was given a financial aid package, scholarships, and I really just walked in there. I said, hey, I need you to sharpen your pencil, and they came back with $7,000 more in aid. So each year, without him taking out any school loans, back in the day it was a measly $58,000. It's gone up a little bit, but for him to go to Willamette for 1 year was $5,000 that I paid as a parent for him to go to Willamette University, and he didn't have any loans out. So they will work with you. You just gotta kind of know what you're gonna ask for. So I'm wrapping this up. We're gonna end things with a raffle. Just some other opportunities that we didn't really touch on today. That's gonna kind of go through me. Our counselors have a plan and profile which kind of tracks what your students do over a 4-year period of time. And that's not really my realm. My realm is more your post-secondary plan. And I don't care if you're gonna go on a mission, if you're gonna go into work, start working, military, college. I just need to meet with all the seniors to see what your post-secondary plan is. I've only met with 36 and we have over 200, so I need to start sending out more emails. You're gonna get a bunch of them from me over this next week because we are gonna have a senior raffle. I have 84 students that signed up here. Each and every one of you will be entered in that raffle. If you did not sign up on the Google Drive sheet that I sent out, please email me and I'll put you on the raffle. I had about 16 students see me the last 2 weeks for college application week. We're going to be doing a scholarship. If you apply for a scholarship, you show it to me, you get another raffle ticket. Okay, for senior night, I've acquired funds to purchase a television, a laptop, a microwave, refrigerator, backpacks. I'm going to be handing out stuff. And it's going to go to your seniors who come see me and make sure that they have a plan. Again, I don't care what the plan is, but when you leave the halls of Dallas High School, you got to have a plan of what you're going to do afterwards. And I'll help you with that. I'm not going to say, oh, you got a plan, you're going to go military. See ya. I'm going to ask some questions. I want to know what you're going to do in the military, how long you're going to be serving. So this isn't just a little 5-minute conversation. So please, my contact info is going to be on my card back that you'll have access to. Some things that you can work with me on is internships, job shadows. We have about 12 kids currently doing job shadows. We have Hilltop Plumbing, DC Electric. We have internships with Knife River, River Bend, Garmin Electronics, Collins Aviation. We have a bunch. So depending on what your students or what you're interested in, we can find a spot for you as far as an internship, job shadow opportunity, or to work with a local mentor. We have Aspire mentors, we have industry mentors that will come and you want to be an electrician, you want to be a plumber, an accountant. Okay, we'll pair you up with a mentor that works in those disciplines right now. We also have professional certification training. I have students that I work with right now, seniors, working on the real estate licensure, mortgage loan origination, insurance sales. So when they graduate, okay, all they need to do is take the state test. They're going to have all the training from here to go on and work as a real estate agent, okay, mortgage loan officer for a bank, or sell insurance. Employment opportunities. It's through the chamber. Okay, I'm on a chamber list, so we have local businesses looking for help. If you're looking for a job, come see me. This chamber is going to expand out to Central or Independence and Monmouth as well. Those opportunities. Trade visits, taking a group of students to electricians and apprenticeship day at Lynn Benton Community College. Military, another thing. It's a great opportunity for some of you. We have the ASVAB test on December 11th. We'll have students from the local area. I think we have a dozen from Dallas High School and another 3 or 4 from some local schools. We just did an NROTC scholarship talk. We'll talk about the GI Bill. I'll hook you up with recruiters if that's your pathway. And again, we have a YouTube channel which this is recorded on, will be on as well. But we've had some guest speakers coming in from industry, from college. So if you scan the QR codes on the bottom, you'll have a link to our YouTube channel. So anytime I bring in a professional industry speaker, we are going to record those things, and that way you have access to it. College admissions, we've had 14 colleges coming in the last month and a half. Those are all on our YouTube channel. And then again, follow us on social media for Facebook and Instagram for our ASVAB updates and anything related to college and career readiness. So that was a lot. I appreciate you guys sitting here for so long. Appreciate our guest speakers for all the information and insight they give on their schools. But it's time to do the raffle. We're going to wrap this show up 20 minutes early. If you have not gotten a raffle ticket yet, the lovely Rachel Jones is going to be walking around and she'll rip up a raffle ticket and get you one. We've got some prizes that I want to raffle off. Anybody? Raffle tickets? Anybody else?
There you go.
All right, here we go. We got an Oakley backpack. And the last 3 numbers are 653. 653.
I told her not to draw it out.
Is that yours?
I told her, just make it.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. 653. Congratulations. Okay, we've got a swag bag from Western Oregon. And the number is... Oops. 586. Should have brought my glasses. 586. 586. 586. Going. Oh. Got a Dutch Brothers gift card. $627. Dutch Brothers gift card. 627. Got a Dutch Brothers Hydro Flask. 563. 563. Oh. Got another Oakley backpack. 574. 574. 574. There you go. Congratulations. I also have a lot of pizza left over, so please take it with you and some brownies. Let's do another Hydro Flask, Dutch Brothers. 596. 596. Well, that is a cool logo. This is neat. Thank you. Dutch Brothers gift card. 557. 557.
Oh, that's my mom.
There you go. Congrats. Oakley backpack. 619, 619. 619. And our last two, Dutch Brothers gift card. 554, 554. And the last one before our superintendent, Steve Spencer, presents his all expense paid scholarship for 4 years at any college in the United States. Are you going to do that tonight, Steve? No. Just kidding. Our last raffle gift is $579. $579. $579.
Good job, Elise.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. There's a bunch of information on the table. Please grab some food on the way out or connect with any of the speakers if you'd like to answer any additional questions.